we're here at the top of page 4 for 1.7. We're in the Practice Plus section, and this is becoming kind of a recurring thing in Chapter 1, is that once we get through the topic, in this case it was multiplying and dividing real numbers, which really was positives and negatives, but we involved fractions and decimals, and then algebra, the variables as well. And then we get to the Practice Plus section where we're used to seeing now two skills in one problem. And here it is. We're going to practice our translating skills, going from a Word version, an English version, to a mathematical version. That's what we're doing here. In this case, we're translating to an algebraic expression, so there'll be no equal sign. And then we're going to simplify. And simplifying for our purposes here in Math 60, that means we are going to look to remove any parentheses or grouping symbols that might mean distribution, so watch for that, and then combine like terms. Alright, so as we translate, we'll just follow our steps here. I won't write them out again, so if you need to we have a list of steps you can follow that gets you to where you need to go. There's tables in the book with the keywords and that kind of thing. So if you're just now starting to jump into the lesson videos, we've been doing translating for several sections. So look back a few sections. We actually talk through and write out these steps I'm about to say verbally as we do this. First, we read it out loud. 14 added to the product of 3 and negative 15. And then take a nice deep breath. We want to remind ourselves, I can do this. We don't want to panic. So that little pause and the oxygen does both of those. Calms our brain down, focuses what we need to do, and we remind ourselves with that little pause, we don't need to panic. We can do this. You will get better at word problems. You just have to do a lot of them. Okay. So we now read it aloud a second time, and this time we're listening for those keywords and information. 14 added to the product of 3 and negative 15. I heard a couple things along the way. We're going to identify our goal here. Our goal is an algebraic expression, then we're going to simplify. So there's going to be two answers here. The first answer is an expression, which means no equal sign, and our second answer will be after it is simplified. Alright, keywords here. 14 added to, so we're adding something together here. Product, we're going to be multiplying something. That lovely, lovely word of, that means it's about to tell us the two things we're going to multiply. Look for the of, see the of, and then look for the and. There it is. We're multiplying 3 and negative 15 here. So 14 is added to multiplying 3 and 15. So you can translate just a step at a time. You don't have to go straight from the sentence all the way to the math. You can do it in baby steps here. So we can leave this as 14 added to the product of 3 and 15. We can write out this multiplication. Don't do it yet. We're just trying to translate to the expression. To 3 times the negative 15. Here I'm using a parentheses to mean multiplication. Okay. Now when I add 14 to something, it's like we do that thing first and then we add 14 to it. So I'm going to do this 3 times the negative 15, and then I'm going to add my 14. It doesn't have to be that way. You could have kept it as 14 plus 3 times negative 15. Either way is fine. My brain thought of it as this. Your brain might think of it as different. Neither way is better or right or wrong. They're both equivalent to each other. Okay, so there is our expression. There's our first answer, the expression. 3 times negative 15 plus 14, or if you wrote it as 14 plus 3 times negative 15. Now we get to simplify it. So make sure you highlight both for yourself so you can check yourself in the back of the book. Simplifying means we're going to go ahead and remove parentheses. Sometimes that will mean distribution. Sometimes just parentheses are multiplication or highlighting the fact that it's a negative. And then 2 will combine like terms. So 3 times a negative 15, positive times a negative, that's going to give me a negative as an answer. Different signs, negative answer when multiplying. 3 times 15 is 45, negative 45, plus 14. So order of operations says I do that multiplication first, then we do the adding. So I'm adding, it's like I'm adding a positive 14, so signs are different. Negative 45 plus positive 14. I subtract 45 minus 14 is going to be 31. I keep the bigger sign, that's going to be a negative 31. So our second answer, simplified version, is negative 31. Let's try number 116. We're going to read it. The difference between negative 11 and the quotient of 20 and negative 5. Deep breath. Sounds all jumbled the first time I read it. Even though I've done these particular ones over and over and over again, every time I teach Math 60, there's just something about the wording that it kind of hits you all at once and it's a little bit confusing. So that deep breath calms me down, pauses me. Let's read it again. Out loud is great too, you get to hear what's being said. The difference between negative 11 and the quotient of 20 and negative 5. Okay, so my goal is an expression, and then I get to simplify it. So again, I'm headed to two answers here. My first answer is going to be an expression. My second answer is going to be it simplified, so that's my goal here. I don't stop till I've reached my goals. There's a good life lesson for you too. Set some goals and then you go until you reach them. And I know that's part of why a lot of us are here in this class, is we've set some goals for ourselves, and this is one of the steps between us and our goals. So let's do it together. So now we look for the key words. Difference, that tells us we're going to subtract. And the nice thing is when the word difference comes up, we can go ahead and just subtract first item minus the second item, however it's listed. Okay, as it's listed, as you read left to right, the difference between blank and blank. Okay, so here's some lovely words here. We've got between and. So we're going to take negative 11 minus whatever's left. Okay, so it's negative 11 minus this quotient. So that's our first translation here, is negative 11 minus the quotient. Okay, so far we'll do a quick look back. That's the other thing I didn't talk through in this upper problem. After we get our answer and met our goals, we do a look back to make sure, did this make sense? 14 added to, the product of 3 and negative 15. And it does make sense there. Just so a quick look back here. We aren't done translating, but we don't want to get too far if we're on the wrong track here. So difference between, I'm subtracting the first thing they mention, so I'm going to take negative 11 minus, because that's what a difference is, and the quotient. Okay, now there's more about the quotient coming up here. Okay, it's the quotient of all this other stuff, but for now I know that I'm going to do negative 11 minus the quotient. I've essentially translated this first part of the sentence. But what is the quotient? Well, the quotient of 20 and negative 5. Again, that lovely of here where it's going to highlight the two things that we're dividing. Okay, and quotient is another great word because it means to divide the very first item that's listed divided by the second item. So again, it's in order as listed. First item divided by second item, or you could think of it as first item over the second item as they're listed. Okay, so in this case we're going to do negative 11 minus the quotient. So the quotient is going to be 20 divided by negative 5, or you could write that as 20 over negative 5, because 20 was listed first, negative 5 was listed second. They used the word quotient, which means we're just going to take it as they give it to us. First item divided by second item, which translates to first item on top, second item on bottom. So I'm going to replace quotient with that 20 over negative 5. So it becomes negative 11 minus this quotient, 20 over negative 5. Okay. Now, order of operations here says that I deal with the division first. So I've got 20, positive 20 divided by a negative 5. So I've got a positive divided by a negative. Different signs, that answer is going to be negative. Okay, so 20 divided by 5 is 4. That creates a negative 4. And we still had the negative 11 minus. Okay, these just come straight down. I just used, all I did in that step is to come up with the answer to that division problem. From there, I've got subtraction. So a little bit from the earlier section of how to subtract positive and negative numbers. I changed that to addition, so this becomes negative 11 plus the opposite here of what we see. It was subtract a negative, now it's going to be add the opposite, add a positive 4. So we've got negative 11 plus a positive 4, negative and positive, different signs. That means I'm going to find the difference. 11 minus 4 is 7. Keep the sign of the bigger number. This answer is negative 7. Okay? So we came up with our expression. So our answer for the first part is negative 11 minus 20 over negative 5. I know it feels kind of funky maybe having the bigger number on top and the negative sitting down there with the bottom. We don't see that very often. But again, that's the translated expression. Then you can work to simplify it and come up with your final answer here of negative 7. Okay, there's a try problem at the bottom of the page. We'll see you there.